The landscape is beginning to change as fall sets in, and so changes the color of these citrus fruits as they begin to ripen. Here's an update on the citrus that are growing in my garden. It's October 2020, and this is New Garden Road. What's up everyone, this is Scott, and I'm here to inform, inspire, and elevate you. Encouraging biodiversity through organic practices and restoring habitat is my mission, one garden at a time. Let me know if you like this video. Oh yeah. And for more awesome gardening videos, subscribe to my channel. Had quite a lot of fruit set this year, but not all the trees have set fruit. Let's take a close look at some that have. So here we've got the dwarf Iranian lemon. This has bloomed at least twice since the spring. I can tell this guy here with that matte finish and premature ripening doesn't look like it's gonna hold to me. Nonetheless, this tree has got several fruit on it. They're varying sizes. They won't all harvest this fall. I love its form. I love that it's a dwarf citrus. It makes it easier to take care of. See, check it out. It's only probably 3 to 4 feet tall. You could bring that inside. If you have a south-facing window, that could be a good way to protect it. Here, just to the left of my Iranian lemon is a Changsha kumquat, and these are starting to ripen. You notice they've got some green and some orange kumquats on there. They've also got some that are pretty newly set, just a little itty bitty kumquats. These smaller producing fruits like kumquats and key limes, calamondins, and similar varieties will produce more than once a year. They'll set fruit more than once. I've had this tree about 7 years and it's looking better than ever. I really tried to be strict in my feeding schedule over the summer and feed them with some holy mackerel fish emulsion. That's a higher nitrogen fish emulsion. They really love nitrogen. You can give them that regularly as they're growing, maturing, and that will help produce larger fruit. How about this bloom sweet grapefruit? Oh man, that one is starting to show some color. This is not a true grapefruit. It's more of a hybrid between a pumelo and maybe a sour orange. It's a very mild yellow fleshed grapefruit. It will turn yellow when it's more ripe. Very productive. I love these, very tasty. And I planted this bloom sweet grapefruit in the ground about 9 years ago. A couple of winters it went through and it got bit really hard by deep freezes. The central leader died back, but it came back out. Sometimes the limbs start to sag, and I use this scare tape, which is really helpful for deterring birds from pecking on the fruit, but I also use it so that I don't hit my head on the limbs or sometimes the fruit as they ripen. This is another kumquat variety that I grow. It's the MEYER. These are not as close as the Changsha. They're a little bit smaller, more uniform in shape, a lot more sweeter or candy-like in flavor. I love both these varieties of kumquats. The MEYERs are just wonderful for snacking, adding to beverages, cooking with. You can dehydrate them, make some citrus powder. Just another compact tree that I've had for a few years is called a calamondin. Very tart fruit. It's a hybrid between a kumquat and a mandarin. Got some great cold hardiness. Super tart. You can eat the rind off these. It has a few seeds in each fruit. They're a great flavor to cook with, to make some beverages, refreshments. Lots and lots of lemons this year. This is a dwarf improved Meyer lemon. I've had this one for 9 years. It stayed small. I've grown it in this container here. I've gotten as many as 30 lemons off of this tree. A really unique flavor. I made some marmalade one year, some ginger Meyer lemon marmalade. That was excellent. This is a very common one you'll find in the nurseries. Very good one to grow in the backyard. Just protect it in the winter. Key limes have been one of my favorites. I've probably had this one for 9 years too. This is a Mexican thornless key lime. They are really small, great for beverages, refreshments. You could also make a key lime pie. Really good producer. Like the kumquats, it's going to produce more than once a year. It has flowered again recently. It's got some different sized fruit on it. Some are gonna be ripe this fall and some are not. I'll come out here and find them on the ground. Sometimes you can just bump into the tree and they'll drop. I like to keep the fruit on the tree until I'm ready to enjoy it. However, with these key limes, which are some of the first to ripen, they will get to the point where they'll easily fall off. But they're still good, nothing wrong with those. If you enjoy fresh lime you should definitely try a Persian lime. I've got this one here. It's got about 9 or 10 limes on it. They are amazing, super delicious, just nothing like you get from the grocery store. Super oily, aromatic. Top it on some fish or some fresh vegetables. The Persian lime, one of my favorites. Might be important to note, citrus fruit don't always turn out to be the exact same size. This one is pretty much done sizing up. It's going to be ripening. It's probably ripe, but it's a lot smaller than that one I just showed you, so just bear that in mind. This tree has a pretty good structure. It's definitely one you want to protect in the winter. Limes are very sensitive to the cold, probably one of the most cold sensitive citrus that you could own, but also one of the most rewarding. My Lisbon lemon has really gone off this year. I think I've got 13 fruit on it. This is a really big tree. It also has some really big thorns. Check this out. It impaled one of its own leaves. Good natural defenses on this tree against birds who might want to come check it out. Lucky me, I have unblemished lemons. There are 5 lemons on this one low branch here. Oftentimes I'll prune out the lower limbs just to make it easier to water and take care of, but I'm glad I didn't on this one. All right, here we go. One of the most beautiful lemons in my collection, the pink variegated lemon. The fruit's variegated, the leaves are beautifully variegated. I mean, just check it out. Each one is like a painting, really striking. The flesh on these lemons is pink. It's really mild in flavor, really great to make lemonade from. Isn't that amazing? All right, around the corner here, I've got one that I haven't potted up just yet. That's okay. I have had this one a couple years. It's ready to get potted up. This is a Sato mandarin, hardy to about 12 degrees. It's got a couple of fruit on it this year. Get you a SATSUMA mandarin. I've really tried to be diligent this season in fertilizing my citrus trees, and that has paid off. I noticed that the fruit seems bigger this year. One of my favorite products to feed them with is made by Fox Farm. It's called Holy Mackerel. I believe it's a 310 liquid fish fertilizer. So I don't know if you can find that wherever you are, but fish emulsion, fish fertilizer could be the key thing that you want to look for. And the next thing to take into consideration would be its NPK. That's the scale that they use to measure the nutrients that are in a fertilizer. It's just the 3 main ones: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. The first one, nitrogen, corresponds to leafy green growth, and that's actually what you want to give these citrus trees. Even though they're going to flower and set fruit, you don't need to give them a bunch of phosphorus. You need to give them nitrogen. So look for the first number in the NPK to be higher than the rest. I'll go ahead and drop a link in the description of this video for Holy Mackerel from Amazon or somewhere like that. Give you an idea of where you might can find it, what it looks like. But wherever you are, just take that into consideration and make sure you feed those citrus trees throughout the season. They'll love it. You'll be reaping the rewards from that. So not all the citrus trees made fruit this year, and that's okay. This is an Ujikitsu lemon. I got this one in 2018. It did produce the first year, but I will say I generally try to keep them from producing for the first 2 years. The reason is because all these in Texas and probably the rest of the country are treated with a systemic pesticide, a neonicotinoid, and that's to protect citrus growers in the industry. There's a citrus greening disease that's really bad. We don't want that to spread. We wouldn't be able to grow citrus in our backyard. But also that's systemic, and it can bother the bees, the honeybees. So if you pull out those blooms the first couple years, that will help protect the bees. It could help protect you. If you're really sensitive to those types of things, you could potentially ingest some of this systemic pesticide, very small amount, I'm sure, but in the fruits. So the first couple years, either I pull off the flower so it doesn't fruit, or if it's like this, it just takes a year off while it's getting established, getting rooted, and that's a win-win for all of us, the bees, me, and the citrus tree. But nonetheless, this is the Ujikitsu. It's like a lemonade fruit. This is a ruby red grapefruit, and I've had it for a few years. It didn't set any fruit this year, but it does look healthy. It's put on a lot of new growth, and I'm betting in January it's really gonna come on and flower like crazy. A lot of times these trees will bloom in the greenhouse in January. We can start to warm up really early. I know we did this year, and they'll respond to the weather, to the sunlight. And the way I see it is these citrus trees bloom and set fruit when they feel like it. It can happen in the middle of winter. Check it out, y'all. I hope you think this is cool. I can't resist. Every year I get a couple of new trees. This is a dwarf Persian lime, dwarf rootstock, dwarf citrus, flying dragon rootstock. That's significant. The rootstock really helps them adapt to our climate, our soil types. If you plant them in the ground, gives them a little bit of cold hardiness, but in this case, it's also going to control the size of the overall tree. So 11/19, that's this lime tree's birthday. That's the date that I'll go off of. Give that 2 years, and then I'll let this guy flower. So I haven't potted it up. I did select a container for it. You don't have to pot the citrus trees up the first year. A lot of times they're not rooted out. It may depend. You know, if you've got a tag like this, you can see when it was propagated. I don't want to try to pot it up if the root ball is not significantly established. That could leave a lot of loose soil. Things could fall apart. So if I don't pot this up this fall, it's going to be just fine. It's going to stay a little bit more protected. Won't fall over inside this pot. And then maybe this time next year, I'll make sure and give it a new home. A couple of things that I look for when I'm selecting a tree at the nursery is a graft that's as straight as possible. I just think that really makes the success of the tree and the scion here, gives it a better chance to be healthy. It's also going to produce a form that's a little bit more desirable. So definitely I like to look at that graft point, make sure that's in good shape. Don't want to see any sprouts below the graft. That's not a good sign. That would be the rootstock, and that means that the energy is going into the rootstock as it shoots, not the graft, the scion here of your dwarf Persian lime or whatever citrus tree it is. Keep that in mind as you shop for a citrus tree. Also look for a branching structure. You see it doesn't really have a central leader. It's been pruned and it's branched out nicely, so that's good. It can set fruit, have a bunch of fruit. That's what we want. Here's the other new tree that I got this year. It's actually replacing one that I lost sadly. KISHU mandarin, super delicious seedless mandarin. When you're choosing a container for your citrus, terracotta is an excellent choice because it's porous. The glazed pottery will hold moisture a little bit longer, and that could make it a little bit more difficult for the soil to dry out in between waterings, and that's real important for citrus trees, particularly if you're going to grow them in containers. So that's why I've chosen terracotta. You can also see that I have some mulch here. It's pine straw. I really like pine straw because it doesn't cake together. If you get a hardwood mulch, that can give you the benefits of moisture retention, weed suppression, and protecting the soil life. However, it won't take moisture quite as well. When the hardwood mulch compacts, the water will run off, whereas with this pine straw, you get a real permeable protective barrier. I want to talk briefly about some of the pests that I'll find on my citrus trees throughout the season, and this one in particular, the leaf miner. It's a larva of a fly. It's going to lay its egg on the leaf and it'll burrow in there, start eating, and it leaves this kind of zigzag pattern. A lot of times when they're done, or at some point, you'll see some browning. Keep a close eye on your citrus. When you see these leaf miners, don't be alarmed. It's primarily cosmetic. You might not like it, but there's not a lot of organic applications. I don't know any applications that will work. Beneficial nematodes could be worth a shot. Treat the soil in and around your trees, in your garden. That can help balance out some of those populations of leaf miners. But you can prune the leaves out, you can feed your tree, keep it healthy, and it's going to keep producing. Another common pest that is really a bit more menacing than the leaf miner, and that's the Cottony cushion scale. That guy. They're really kind of gross. You can wipe them off with a soapy rag pretty easily. It may take some work, but I don't know if you see it. I can show you a picture, but there's all kind of little nymphs behind there. Those are best removed physically. Check those trees regularly. Stay on top of it. I'm gonna get out here and put in some work and clean them up. So I am going to be protecting my trees for the winter. I got a greenhouse that I've constructed from scratch, and I've used it for about 5 winters now. It's gotten everything through. It's not the most beautiful structure, but it is pretty economical. For me it was. You know, I just bought a bunch of 2x4s, some screws, and some PVC piping, along with some heavyweight row cover and some spring clips. I'm able to pull these citrus trees through some of the coldest temperatures that I get here in Central Texas. I live close to downtown Austin, so it may be a little bit easier for me to get away with this, but I do have some incandescent rope lights that I'll drop in there on some of the coldest nights to provide some supplemental heat to my trees, and that really helps them. I am going to give them one last fertilization. We're almost at the middle of October, so I want to give them the juice one more time, but after that I'm going to let them go into somewhat of a dormant state. I'm going to keep them outside where they are as long as I possibly can. I want them in full sun. I want them to have lots of circulation. In the meantime, I'll be getting my greenhouse up, hopefully in time, just to make the transition easier. And I generally move them all with a dolly. That's really helpful if you've got more than one citrus tree. If you've got one citrus tree, definitely want to invest in a dolly. If you don't have one, that makes it so much easier to move around if you grow them in containers. If you've got them in the ground, just be prepared. You may, take some row cover and wrap them up. You can create a structure if you want to with some PVC pipes and keep the row cover off of them that way. You can throw in some rope lighting like I'm talking about. Be prepared for the cold weather. You're going to need to protect these. Now watch this video for more information on how to grow citrus trees in containers, including my 7 tips for seasonal maintenance. You'll be harvesting your very own homegrown citrus fruit in no time. Keep it organic.